Well, good evening. It's Irish whiskey time. You know, gin is an English drink, and so I'm celebrating my heritage. My name is Conley, so I'm celebrating my Irish history with some. I went out and bought this. Tullamore Dew is the name of it. I've never tried this before. Ooh, this is very smooth. No bite to it at all. So, my name is Conley, C-O-N-L-E-Y, and well, I have no authority on this, but I think my Conleys were the simple, original Conleys, and all the Conleys came after kept adding more letters to you. So you had 2 N's and 2 L's and a couple of O's and all that, but mine was the simple C-O-N-L-E-Y. And I want to show you my ancestry. I'm very proud of this. Let's see if you can see this. This goes back here. These were silver miners at the Cripple Creek mine in Colorado at the turn of the century. And you can see there, although it's reversed, the guy at the top is my grandfather, and the one down here was his brother. And as you can see, they were the only really decent looking fellas in that bunch. The rest of them was really, really rough. I mean, look at that. They had no child labor laws there, and they all had candles when they went down to the mine. I guess you didn't want to sneeze. So yesterday I went to Costco, and I think I mentioned this before, but I made when I walked in there, I made a spontaneous buy because they usually put some stuff up on the left there, and I bought a case of Irish Spring soap. That's reversed. And I didn't know why I bought it. I just bought it. Then I got home, and then I found out that today was St. Patrick's Day. So, that's why I bought it. So then I got to thinking, so I've really been meditating on the Irish Spring all day. And by meditating, I mean, when you meditate on something is you get an idea, and it just keeps revealing itself to you all day long. So you ruminate on it, you think about it, new angles pop up, new dots connect. So I've been connecting dots. So maybe that's what meditation, when you have something you meditate on, you allow the dots to connect and the interconnections to reveal themselves to you. So you keep learning and seeing more and more out of it. You don't apply anything to it, you let it reveal itself to you. So the Irish Spring has been revealing itself to me all day, and I wanted to share that with you. And I thought, what a great name, Irish Spring. Now, this right there is very Irish because it's double meaning. Now, does it mean Irish Spring, like in a season? Like after winter comes the spring, and then is the Irish Spring different because does it just pop up anytime? So it's an Irish Spring, so that would mean it could pop up in the winter or anytime. Or is it an Irish Spring? There's a spring in your dance. There's a little Irish Spring to you. See, that's a beautiful, double meaning word. You can go several ways with it. So I began to meditate on Irish Spring, whichever way you want to take it, and then I looked up I thought of Beyond the Pale. Now, wait a minute, what does that mean? So I looked that up. And Beyond the Pale was an English term used in the 14th century. And the pale was kind of like a fence or a borderline. And so the Irish were beyond the pale. And inside here was civilization. So anything that's beyond the pale is beyond civilization, beyond tradition and manners and order. And kind of like rabble beyond the pale, uncivilized. Huck Finn was beyond the pale. He didn't want to be civilized. The Irish never wanted to be civilized in the definition of civilization as the English, you see. And I've been watching these Midsummer Mysteries, which was a long-running British mysteries. I can see them on Netflix, but it was about a kind of a composite English town, and they would have a mystery, a murder, and it was always the murderer would appear in dark clothes with a mask on, you know, and as the detective tried to figure out who did it. And I really began to appreciate the British order, the British culture, the British order was manicured gardens, traditional manners and customs that you didn't dare break. And then the Irish were beyond the pale. And I began to meditate on that. Why were the Irish beyond the pale? Well, the Irish were never conquered by the Romans, which is an imperial order. Roman order became English order, you see, and the order of the church, this whole idea of controlling order. Order means logical, in a system where everybody fits, you see. And so the Irish were kind of tribal people. They were clans. They didn't fit into this one clan like the English civilization was like one clan. The English Empire was a clan, you know, of English people that imposed their order. They kept expanding the pale, right? So you keep moving the pale and including these tribes. The Roman Empire did that, kept expanding the pale to incorporate tribal different cultures into it and assimilate them, eat them, and make them part of their body. But they couldn't, the Irish didn't want to be eaten, so the English tried to eat them, but they just, okay, Irish, spit it out. So the Irish stayed out beyond the pale. And they because they were never incorporated into the Roman Empire, the English Empire, they were never really incorporated into the, although they were Catholics, they were never really incorporated into this hierarchy of order where you have the Pope, the King, and then the nobles, and it trickles down like a big pyramid like that, you know. The Irish were tribal people, so their loyalty was to clans. The same as in Afghanistan and these cultures in the Middle East. Their loyalty is horizontal to clan organizations, you see. So they are tribal groups, families, tribal chieftains like that. And they don't fit into this hierarchy of a pyramid with the trickle-down pyramid of power coming on down like that, you see. So it was to me, it was very interesting that, so the Irish also, now just look at their dance. I was meditating on that, and I saw that today. Now, the Irish dance is very unique because the upper body is stiff like that, it doesn't move. But below the belt, it just goes like crazy, you see. So it's a combination of opposites. It's a metaphor in itself, where you have the still upper body, and the lower body is just going like mad, you see. So you have a union of opposites. Stillness and motion are combined in the dance. So you have this union of opposites in the Irish that the English are not comfortable with. The English are not comfortable with mystery and paradox and uncertainty. That's why they like mysteries, because the mystery is really when, going back to this Murdoch, the Midsummer Mysteries, you have this very ordered English town and the women going on bicycles and the milkman, and everybody's in order, everybody's in place, and then, oh my God, somebody's dead. So that's disorder. That's who did it. We've got to restore order. So the intellectual detective comes in, the Sherlock comes in to restore order, and then he finds out who was the murderer, you see, and they remove him, and order is restored. You see. Well, I don't know if the Irish were good at mysteries like the English, but I know that when you have an imposed order, you create within it the threat of chaos. So you're constantly trying to tamp down any disorder. But the Irish didn't tamp it down. So they kind of like embraced disorder. So if you look at their dance, you know, the upper half of the body is still. That would be mind, consciousness. And the lower half of the body is just moving like that. That would be the unconscious. So they're kind of open to the unconscious. And that would be why they're open to, they're open to, somebody's at the door. Just a minute. Come on in, I'm doing a Facebook Live. You can sit there and watch. Let me finish up. We're having dinner tonight, so one of my guests has showed up. So anyway, we have this paradox in the Irish of the union of motion and stillness and motion. And the way I perceive it is that they're kind of like a hospital gown. Hospital gown fronts order in the front, but if you look at the back, they're wide open. So the Irish are kind of wide open to the unconscious forces of the mind. They let them in. Fairies, mystery, mystics. This back door was open to the unconscious forces of nature. You know, so they're nature oriented. The little leprechauns and dragons and all these unconscious forces are very comfortable with them, you know. So the Irish have a great sense of irony. Now, irony means, you know, that you're comfortable with paradox. Irony is metaphorical in the sense that it says one thing and says another at the same time and holds it together, you see. So the Irish kind of like hold the opposites together, and that gives them a different energy than you get with people who are ordered and controlled and certain and rational and very circumspect, you see, and proper and all that. So there's a wildness, you see, to the Irish that was just not digestible to the English. And so I'm kind of like celebrating that wildness, that poetic. They were great poets and storytellers, you see, because to tell a good story, you have to be ironic. You have to be able to understand metaphor and hold opposites together and be comfortable with the unknown and the mystery. And so this really, to me, as I've been meditating on the Irish Spring, and I've been celebrating that today because I appreciate that in my own heritage, as I am fascinated with metaphor and myth and the union of opposites. Because when opposites are held together, that's an energy generator that generates creative energy when you can hold opposites together. It's when you have to repress one that you end up like the English as an example. I don't mean to downplay that, but I'm saying when you think about the English order, is that the order is made, they want a conscious order where everybody fits, you see. So anything that doesn't fit is repressed. So there is a constant, but if you allow what doesn't fit in, you're allowing in the opposites, you see. So when the Irish are allowing in the play of opposites, you get a whole different kind of consciousness than you get with somebody who doesn't allow that in and just wants everything to be certain and organized and factual and logical, you see. So that creates the pale. When you want your world to be organized and you don't want any inconsistencies or mystery or unknowns in it, you see, you're going to create the pale and keep the barbarians and the Irish out, you see. So your little land will be very ordered, and you'll have a nice classical garden with all manicured with no weeds, you see, or anything like that. Clip, 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 you know. It's all very tight and organized, you know, because all the weeds are kept out. You've got Roundup. So you've got, and this plays out in our civilization today. Just playing with this concept, I would say the Trump people are like the Irish. They're like kind of like the tribal people out there who don't want to be organized and they don't want to be eaten or incorporated into the government, you see. So the government is kind of like the English, you know, the empire, the hierarchy in the empire that's going to take over. And these tribal people resist and make whiskey in the mountains and drive fast cars, you see, to escape the feds, you know. So it's this whole idea, you know, of living beyond it, being beyond the pale. And we see that acting out today in our culture, coming up big time. You know, this whole, and it becomes a political movement, you know. But it's all mythology. You know, you can't live outside of the government, you know. You can't live outside of order and civilization unless you just go back and live in a cave. You know, so it's a lot of mythology and identity and that like that. But anyway, I've just been ruminating and expanding on this idea of my Irish spring today. So I hope you all celebrate with a little Irish in your life, and a little spring in your life, and a little union of opposites, and let the illogical in. Let the spontaneous come in. Do something that you haven't done before. Do something, be crazy a little bit. A little madness. You need a little madness to cut the rope, or else you'll never be free, is what Zorba said, you know. So that madness, I think, is the essence that we're looking at today. So thank you for being with me, and I'll see you tomorrow morning.